So we're in the Santa Rosa cemetery. I'm not sure which one. I think the Oddfellows. Trying to find the grave of Robert Ripley. Of Ripley's, believe it or not. He's buried here. Can't drive in here. We found out that there's no roads that lead into here. Man, this is not cared for in the least. Well, it says non-endowed care section, and there he is. I'm seeing him already. Look at that. The very famous Robert Ripley is buried right here. The marker has his signature and the, believe it or not, trademark. He's buried here next to his mother, Lilybell, and his father, Isaac. Look at this. Somebody placed this little Smurf down here and this painted rock and some pocket change. Robert Ripley was born in 1890 here in Santa Rosa on Glen Street, I understand. And I feel kind of sorry for the kid because I saw a picture of him, and let's just say that his teeth were messed up from the time he was a small boy. In fact, it looked like those fake wax teeth. I mean, they stuck out pretty far. The poor guy was made fun of for it, and so to make up for it, he got really good at baseball, and he really got into cartooning because that was his way out. He wanted to take his mind off of things. So from there, he became quite a successful cartoonist. His caricatures got him a lot of fame in high school. I understand that he was a poor writer and his public speaking skills were so bad he turned into silly putty when he had to speak before a group of kids. 5 days after the rest of the class of 1908 graduated, his first cartoon was published, believe it or not. Life magazine paid him $8, which was nearly a week's pay for most people at that time. Also that summer, the Ripley family rented a room to a journalist writing a feature on Luther Burbank, and that writer was so impressed with the landlady's son's work, she took the portfolio back to San Francisco, and by 1909, he was hired by the San Francisco Bulletin as a cartoonist for the sporting page. He was fired from that position in 4 months, and he took a new job with the San Francisco Chronicle, at which time he took the first art classes he ever took in his life. It's really kind of odd because sometimes you get these misconceptions about things in life. And one of the misconceptions that I had about Robert Ripley, he always looked English to me. He always had that, I don't know, he just looked like he came out of an English film from the 1930s. And for that reason, I thought he was English. He was actually born here in Santa Rosa, went to school here, and then he also spent a lot of time in San Francisco. Of course, he had traveled the world looking for strange artifacts so that he could share them in his museums. And it really all started here in Santa Rosa.
Believe it or not.
You probably have been to a Ripley's museum throughout the country. There's many of them. There is actually still an old church in town. I think it was created by One Tree. It's called the One Tree Church. I think it was constructed in 1869, if I'm not mistaken. That was one of the first places that Robert Ripley created his museum. Here in Santa Rosa. He always tried to come back to this town because it was where he was raised.
One of the locals buried in this cemetery not far away is Hazel Helen Cooley Andreasen. She became the talk of the town when the family dog, a Boston Terrier named Skipper, appeared in Ripley's Believe It or Not. It seems that Skipper's birthmark took on the shape of a baby bunny rabbit each time he sat down.
Something caught my eye over here on this grave. This one here looks like it's out of a huge rock. A newel. Let's see what the name of it is. This is Joseph Newell. Looks like he died in 1938. This is the 1930s section. Of course, Robert Ripley died in 1949. I understand that Mr. Ripley did not have a very successful marriage because he liked to mess around with young women, and I can't figure that out because he wasn't exactly the nicest looking man. So I'm not sure what the attraction was, but it would be the first time that a famous person or a rich person was able to get a lot of women. It's really not surprising that he was buried next to his mother, and his father said that he would just absolutely adored his mother. Ripley himself told the interviewers, "Women are wonderful, simply wonderful in their place, and the only time women are happy is when they're completely under the domination of men." It said when he was growing up that he was near the red light district, and there were 11 bordellos, and that maybe that's where he got his idea about abusing women. He was quite a success with the pen. You think about all of his accomplishments. I believe he was the first millionaire cartoonist in the United States. He also went to the 1920 Olympics so they could draw pictures for magazines and newspapers. It's said that William Randolph Hearst made him one of the most highly paid cartoonists in the country, paying him $100,000 so they could have exclusive artwork from Robert Ripley. When I first saw this place, I was wondering if we were ever going to find it, because I thought his grave would have been at least a place where you could drive to it. That's not the case. But
we're standing over a bunch of babies.
oh, this is the baby graves. Except
See
for
how close they are to get, well, over there I don't know, but this baby.
let's go see if we can find some other interesting graves. Now, this grave is interesting. It's very large. Sarah Jameson from 1823 to 1906. See that at the base? It says Rachel, wife of James Marshall, July 6, 1846 to March 9, 1903, of Armagh, Ireland. I'm thinking that's not the James Marshall of the gold discovery Marshall, because I don't know if he was even married. It's a very old cemetery. Now, those are my initials right there. That's kind of scary. This is the 1897 grave of Joel Dwight Burnett. He served in the U.S. Army during the Civil War and was the undersheriff of Sonoma County from 1886 to 1891.
Warning, possible mountain lion sighting.
That scare you?
No.
So there's no mistaking where Nancy H. Mills is. That finger is pointed straight up to heaven. She died in 1900.
Why is this so untaken care of?
Because it's a non-endowment cemetery and there's no money for it. Okay, folks, this is really interesting. This individual here, J.H. Wolgamuth, he was with Stevenson's New York Infantry during the Mexican War. Check that out. Stevenson was an early explorer that came into California, I believe in 1846, 1844, somewhere in that area. There's more Civil War graves over here. There's another Mexican War soldier right here, Sergeant A.P. Hawes of Company D. Charles B. Goodwin, Company D, 6th U.S. Infantry. They're all over the place here. Hardesty, Mark Nichols, George Harrison Scholl. Look at that one. That's kind of interesting. There you go, George Harrison Scholl, 1874 to 1954, discoverer of hybrid corn.
I did some research on Scholl and learned that he had an association with Luther Burbank and his plant studies. However, Scholl was most interested in experimenting with the genetics of corn plants. As a result of his research, corn yields per acre were increased 25 to 50%.
How would you like to have your accomplishment put on your tombstone like that? I'm not sure what mine would say. Jeff of History Hunters. What's that? These are kind of creepy. They're buildings that look like they're maybe meant for storage of bodies for the interim. I'm not sure if, they don't have any markings on it. So I'm assuming it's just for storage until possibly actual service could take place and burial. It's just incredible how many people are buried out here. William Kittredge was a sergeant major in the 4th Minnesota Infantry, who was part of the 1st Brigade to march into Vicksburg at the end of the siege, July 4th, 1863. He stayed in the Army and he fought Indians at Powder River, Montana in March 1876. Their loss was the first of 3 for the Army in southeastern Montana that year, which culminated in the defeat of Lieutenant Colonel George Armstrong Custer at the Battle of the Little Bighorn on June 25th, 1876.
He also served as a captain in the 3rd California Infantry, where his duty included keeping the immigrant trail open. He settled here in Santa Rosa, where he became a farmer until he died in 1892. Because it's ornately sculpted with floral designs, we'll end our tour at this grave of French immigrant William Ketterland, who died in 1897, and his wife Augustine. Her name was engraved atop when she died in 1942. So we want to thank you for getting to the end of this episode of History Hunters. We hope that you learned a little bit more about Robert Ripley, as well as some of the historical figures buried here in this cemetery in Santa Rosa, California. We would love to have you give us a like, also a comment, and subscribe to this channel for future episodes of History Hunters. Thanks so much.